Hello everyone, welcome back to the Hindu Explainer series. I am Kushagra Goel and warm greetings from Law Prep Tutorial. As yesterday and in the following week prior to this, the one major news that hit headlines was about the 7th Fleet of US conducting a freedom of navigation operation in the Indian Ocean, which is the exclusive economic zone of India. In that regard, a lot of you had doubts about how US could violate it. So I'll be addressing those doubts specifically at the discussion where the editorial regarding that has been put forward. All right. So those doubts I'll be addressing then. Then another doubt that students had was about why is US withdrawing its troops from Afghanistan? Now the reason why US is withdrawing its troops from Afghanistan is because it has realized it cannot win the war against Taliban. It has in the history the longest war that is going on in modern era, that is post World War II, the longest war US has been engaged in, and therefore it has realized that see, this is a never ending war, it is not going anywhere. So basically it's trying to cut its losses. We are waiting for the UN sponsored meet on Afghanistan peace to actually take place to see what course Afghanistan's history will now take over. Then another doubt that students also had was regarding the E Committee of the Supreme Court. Now the E Committee of the Supreme Court is under Justice D.Y. Chandrachud right now, who will become the next Chief Justice after Justice N.V. Ramana. On that note, the E Committee is responsible for e-filing of Supreme Court cases. It is also responsible for the right now online or virtual hearings of the court that are taking place. And along with that, the next step of the E Committee is to have broadcasting of Supreme Court hearings for the general population at large. So that is details about the E Committee. Then moving on, another doubt regarding this from yesterday's newspaper was related to about this Italian fisherman case. Now in that regard, what you need to know is that see, it was Italian marine ship that was going through India. They came across an Indian fisherman ship. The Italian marines thought that they were pirates and shot at them, in leading to the death of the fishermen. The Italian marines were arrested in India. The trial went on. Italy sought bail for them and in regard or in return stated that it will provide compensation. Now the compensation amount has been fixed by the Supreme Court, which is far higher than what the Italian government had promised. The hearing for closure of the case is due this week. The family members of the fishermen who passed away have agreed to take compensation from the Italian government. The Italian government has promised that instead of trying the Italian marines in India, the investigation will go on regarding their actions in Italy. So that is the story of the case. On that note, I'll begin with today's newspaper. So on the left hand side, de-escalation trends positive, says China. Now two things stand out in this headline. One, this was not by the official Ministry of Defense of China, but by the Western Theater Command of China that made the statement. Also, it did not provide any statement whether overall disengagement has been agreed, what is the agreement in place. The conversation between India and China took place regarding disengagement. We know that disengagement has only taken place at the Pangong Tso Lake, in which a no patrol region has been established between finger 4 to finger 8. Apart from that, everything else is still a ongoing conflict without any redressal, and that is what is awaited for all of us. Now from China and India, the hope is that this disengagement will take place peacefully without any further escalation of tensions between the two countries. So that is the only official news. Then apart from that, on the front page, nothing of real note for us apart from one headline news, which is that the number of cases in India are now rising at a far greater pace, and in response to that, because of shortage of drugs to treat the COVID patients, Remdesivir, the drug, the antiviral drug, has now export of the drug has been banned for the time period to tide over the rising cases in India. And pharmaceutical companies have also been asked to put up details about the stocks that they have, where they are distributing it, and how. This is to provide access to people who need the drug for their family members. Then on the front page, it is also about 33.4% jump in investment from Q3 to Q4 in India. Investment leads to growth in the economy because that is sustainable growth. So these are good offshoots, but however, as lockdowns are increasing in the state because of rising COVID cases, this is a problem that, or the growth may actually stop in the onset only. Then turning to the other national news, nothing of real note for us here. So turning to the editorial page. On the editorial front, the main editorial through a back channel steps forward. This is regarding that how India and Pakistan over time period have maintained back channel conversation. What is a back channel conversation? You can understand this easily through a direct conversation that takes place, right? So India and China declared that they will be having disengagement conversation, and no outcome came out of it. That is a direct conversation that is announced. Back channel conversations are those that take place between the political leaders but are not officially known to us. For example, the editorial cites the case during the Kargil war, how back channel conversation assisted in de-escalation of the Kargil war, which led to withdrawal of further troops from Pakistan and overall sustainable peace after the war was over. So it is these back channel conversations which are being stated to have led to the ceasefire agreement or upholding of the ceasefire agreement between India and Pakistan. We know that both the militaries have agreed to abide by the 2003 ceasefire agreement, and based on that, the borders are silent between India and Pakistan. But what led to the success? Suddenly, how did this happen? So this points out that these back channel conversations are the one that have actually led to this solution. And overall, it traces the history of back channel conversation between India and Pakistan over time period. So that is all that this editorial has for us. Nothing of real note apart from a realization that not direct diplomacy but sometimes covert diplomacy can also go a long way in sustaining peace. Then moving on the left hand side, wrong shoots. The Election Commission must take measures to prevent violence and keep the election process fair. Two allegations have been alleged against the Election Commission. One is regarding the overall process of how the elections have been conducted till now in West Bengal, because in the fourth phase, 4 people were shot dead by the security forces of India itself, and violence has erupted in the region related and around that. So the duty to conduct peaceful and free and fair election is on the Election Commission. So therefore, if a violence happens, the first questions are to be raised on the Election Commission and how it led a situation to like that take place. And also the next 4 phases of the election are yet to take place. Already the Election Commission was under criticism for why the elections in West Bengal had been for such a long time period, relying on the history of violent elections in West Bengal in general. So, and it is in this light that Election Commission's trust is actually in question, which needs to be restored. It is also seen that the Election Commission has not been bipartisan in its conduct, and that is also the editorial questions here. However, all of this is not directly relevant for us. The only thing that directly becomes relevant for us is regarding the conduct of Election Commission and why and what constitutional mandate does it have, which is under Article 326. It has the mandate for superintendence over all elections and has to conduct them free and fair. The Election Commission is a constitutional body just like the Parliament. So executive that comes from the Parliament is also not above the Election Commission. It has to, and under the Constitution is an independent constitutional body and therefore has to function impartially. Then on the left hand side, enforcing claims. It is in this light, this editorial talks about the conflict between the recent event of freedom of navigation operation that conduct. One question that a lot of you had, that how could US violate the UNCLOS? The question, so two things emerge. International law, something that you will all study in your law schools, has two sources. For example, one is a treaty. The UNCLOS, or the United Nations Convention on Law of Seas, is a convention that countries have agreed to. In that regard, for example, when we sign a contract, we become bound to follow it. Similarly, when countries sign international conventions, they become bound by it. In this light, US has not signed the UNCLOS. So it has claimed that, see, it is above it. But international law is not just based on conventions. It also relies on customary practices. So for example, the appointment of Chief Justice of India is always the senior most judge of the Supreme Court. This rule is not written anywhere in the Constitution. However, every government except for two incidents in the past have always followed it. So it is a customary practice to do it. And if someone does not follow it, it raises questions. International law also believes in such customary practices, that even if someone has believed that, see, this treaty they have not signed, they are still bound by certain customary practices. And that is what, under which India has claimed a violation by US, stating that, see, even if you haven't signed the UNCLOS, the rules, which is that military maneuvers during freedom of navigation cannot be carried out, and that above international law, India's position is that within its exclusive economic zone, military operations cannot be carried out, that it does not feature under freedom of navigation, and therefore it is a violation of sovereignty and international law by USA in this regard. That is exactly what the editorial also highlights, that India, through its diplomatic channels, have made US aware of this. This also talks about the overall fragility of peace in the Indo-Pacific region and the struggle between different power countries over dominance in the region. The fact is that despite India being part of the Quad very recently, which calls for a peaceful and free Indo-Pacific region, US trying to dominate it above the sensitivities of its own regional partner is something that points out towards the fragility of the situation. And that is part of the overall diplomatic politics between India and USA. But what we are more concerned with is the law. So the fact as they stand is that a US ship carried out a freedom of navigation operation in the exclusive economic zone of India. It did not have permission, and as India claimed, was a violation of the international law. So countries have two options when another country violates international law. One, they can send the message to the other country, as India has done through diplomatic channels, and claim that, see, this is a violation and get your act together and don't do it again. The second is you can go to International Court of Justice and claim a violation and then establish liability. Both the things mean the same. Other is by a court. The first option is between two countries to mutually resolve the dispute. Something similar India and Pakistan in the Kulbhushan Jadhav case. Because diplomatic conversations failed, we went to the International Court of Justice. Now in this situation that is not required. Also, why do we need to know about this is because UNO or international organization is part of your current affairs, and therefore it is likely to be asked where they are located, what are the agencies. The International Court of Justice is also a body of the UNO and therefore becomes important to be noted down for all of you. Then turning to the next editorial, which is why the Personal Data Protection Bill matters. This is the bill, the draft of which was prepared in 2019, and it is right now before the Standing Committee for overall perusal. The reason for personal data protection is simple. One, it is related to the Justice Puttaswamy judgment of the Supreme Court, which calls for right to privacy as a fundamental right. Now, all the data that you have online, what all personal data do you have? For example, your name, email ID, your date of birth, your gender, any other data also, for example, what you are browsing online. Nothing of that sort can be shared without your consent. And the bill by the BN Krishna Sri Krishna committee also talked about how non-consent should be a violation of the fundamental right to which you can pursue the company in court. Recently, this is in news because MobiKwik, which is an app in India, claimed that their data was breached. This risked 9.9 crore Indians' personal data online. So, for example, on a payment platform like MobiKwik, you put in your debit card details, which risk for online fraud that can take place, right? And similarly, the second part of the editorial then talks about the criticisms or things that the bill or what is problematic about the bill. Now, that is policy realm, but we'll cover it in summation, which is that while on private companies, consent of person is important for sharing of data, government for its own purpose or agencies, if it authorizes, can take your data without your consent as per the data protection bill, which it claims is something that shouldn't be done because your data is your part of your right, and therefore in any situation also the state should not get the access to it without your consent, and that is the theme of the editorial. Then turning to the other ones, on the left hand side it is criticism of the UGC about its own mechanism of teaching, and then on the left hand side a fragile ecosystem is about how journalism is not just about talking about the good events but also talking about the struggle of people to tide over difficult, complex conflicts and how humanity has triumphed over them. So both this one is related to policy, not relevant for us. Then the other one, a case for cash transfers. This is talking about universal basic income and cash transfers, a scheme that the US has implemented for COVID relief in its own economy. And this calls for how the Congress party had claimed the Nyay scheme for everyone, that is 6,000 rupees for every individual below the poverty line, unconditional cash transfers. And then it talks about how in Kenya, this experiment of providing cash transfers was able to assist people to tide over such conflicts or such harsh times as COVID is right now. And in US, this policy has already been implemented at a large scale and not just for people below the poverty line. So it calls for why overall in India this scheme should be implemented. Nevertheless, this is a policy measure, thus not relevant for us. Then moving on the other national news, talks about one here talks about how because of the no petrol zone, pasture land between the areas at the Pangong Tso Lake has now become inaccessible for the herders. Then moving on the other national news, on the left hand side, 11th April marked the beginning of the Tika Utsav as claimed by the Prime Minister during his meeting with the Chief Ministers. And so from 11 to 14, India is celebrating the Tika Utsav, which is for large-scale vaccination against COVID-19. And the claim is that the aim is towards zero wastage of vaccines, that everyone who is supposed to turn up at the vaccination center should turn up so that vaccine doses do not go waste. However, country is running below the capacity of people it can vaccinate because of shortage of vaccines. Then center bans export of remdesivir. This is the detailed headline, something that we discussed on the front page about ban on export of the drug, plus detailing about stocks and overall display of how much and what has been distributed. Then moving on the international news. So day before yesterday, we talked about Iran unveiling its own centrifuge nuclear facility. Now it is claimed that Israel's security agency Mossad carried out a cyber attack on Iran's nuclear facility at the Nantes which is an underground nuclear facility, and because of which electrical supply at the facility was turned down and the center was shut. It is claimed not directly by the government but different news channels in Israel. Benjamin Netanyahu, the Prime Minister of Israel, has also claimed that one, Iran is a threat to itself or to the sovereignty of Israel. Secondly, they vow to do everything to prevent Iran from getting access to nuclear weapons. And thirdly, that the peace treaty between US and Iran would be also a detrimental threat to their country, and therefore it is their aim to not let that happen. Now this is regional grouping which keeps the Middle East overboiled and internal struggle for power between the two countries. Then a public show of solidarity in Jordan. It is about Prince Hamza, something that we discussed yesterday. And then this headline about how China and Russia, despite everyone else condemning the violence, have continued to provide military support to the junta in Myanmar, which has given them the nudge to carry on with their repressal of people's democratic urges in the country. In that regard, moving on, China has also claiming or planning to do a mixing of different vaccines because the efficacy of the vaccines they are administering is not high enough to prevent the population. So this is something they are claiming to do. How they do it, these details about Chinese vaccines are not out, unlike other vaccines that we have discussed, for example, Sputnik, Pfizer, Moderna, AstraZeneca, Covaxin. Details about Chinese vaccines are limited and therefore we can't discuss much about them. Then moving on, another headline from this page is also that the test flight of Ingenuity on Mars has been suspended for a technical snag. So this is regarding the first extraterrestrial flight that humans are planning to do on Martian surface, and when that happens we'll talk about it once again. Then moving on the economic and sporting front, nothing of real note for us. Thus, I will conclude for the day. The most important thing for you all in today's newspaper is that you ensure you revise the disengagement between India and China and also include information about UNCLOS, international law, and the related events regarding it. On that note, thank you so much.